right, let's head to the Gulf of Mexico, where we had landfall in Terrebonne Parish. If you're not familiar with South Louisiana, remember that most of it is marsh. This is one of the only coastal states without a real beach. I mean, you go to Southwest Louisiana, what's called Holly Beach, they call it the Cajun Riviera. That's about the closest you get. This is all marsh, a lot of which is at sea level or below. City of New Orleans, 9 feet below sea level. So landfall about 5:30, 5:45. You saw Jim Cantore. He was in Morgan City, right about here, northern part of that eye wall, right in there. And then this is Houma, Louisiana. A lot of people are familiar with Houma, which is southwest of New Orleans. So much water just pushing up into the Bayou State. Lots of flooding, but the blessing was how fast this storm was moving. 17 miles per hour at landfall, now continuing at 16 miles per hour. It's just to the west of Lake Pontchartrain. Look at that little jog it did at landfall. Pretty interesting, right? This takes a hard right turn towards New Orleans, and now it's going to be moving almost due north as it heads into Mississippi overnight as a tropical storm, because winds are now below 74 miles per hour. That is the cutoff for a hurricane. Look what happens on the western side of the storm. So much dry air. A sinking air motion, number one. Number two, this dry air mixing down from the mid and upper levels to the surface. So two things happen. We definitely heat up with that sinking air motion. Dry air helps that as well. And as we go into the next few days, it's going to be a warming trend. Here's the other change. The winds have changed. Northeast breeze starts going east to southeast. So here comes the Gulf fetch. Here comes the humidity. Watch the dew points going from lower 60s into 70s by the weekend. The last weekend of summer, by the way. And it's going to feel like it because temperatures are going up, mid to upper 90s with that sinking air motion and that dry air. Then the added humidity. Yeah, so mid 90s, even upper 90s by Friday, going to feel more like lower 100s out there. Speaking of out there, the quarry market with our smokestacks blue in remembrance of those we lost on 9/11. 80 degrees, feels like 81, light easterly breeze already, so the dew point back up into the 60s. It's been in the low 50s most of the day. To San Antonio International, today's high 95. So 4 above average. This is all a heat wave. It really is. I mean, once we're going into 4 to 5 degrees above seasonal average for several days, a mini heat wave as we head into that final weekend of summer. And with high pressure taking over, you want to see a dry forecast. Look at the next 7 days. We're not expecting a drop. You got to go about a county south at least before you run into 1/10 of an inch for the next 7 days. So it's a very dry forecast. 96 to 98 to wrap up the work week. 96 to 97 over the final weekend of summer. 10% chance of an isolated shower into next week, maybe a 20% chance. We're just not looking at a whole lot of change on this 14-day forecast. 2 weekends that look pretty good.